Todd Family YouTube video, wherever you are, whatever you may be doing. Thank you so much for making Ref Brandon and the Todd Family part of your day. We always greatly appreciate it. Turn it down some, Avery. If you jump on here live here on this Sunday afternoon, feel free to leave a comment in the comment section down below. Make sure to give the video a like, a thumbs up. If you have not yet subscribed, please do so and share the video on all social media platforms. Avery, play a game, buddy, if you can't turn it down, okay? I'm home today with my twin boys, as you can already tell. I've got one sitting right beside me. Say, hey, Maddox.
Hi.
And one is in the kitchen eating some lunch. I want to jump on here on this Sunday afternoon and talk about the college football playoffs because they start in less than 2 weeks. Good afternoon, Keveron. Glad to have you here, as always. And we should know by the time we all go to bed tonight, unless you go to bed really, really early, where all the remaining teams are going in their bowl games that are not going to the playoffs. Of course, now there's, I think, 41 bowl games. So they'll be starting coming up here very, very, very soon. But the top four teams are Indiana, Ohio State, Georgia, and Texas Tech are the top four teams in the final poll. Now, somebody asked me this past week at work who I thought the best four teams were, and I told them in no particular order, I think the best four teams are Ohio State, Indiana, Georgia, and Texas Tech, and I would be stunned if anybody besides one of those four teams won the national championship. And I said, I never was and still have not been a proponent of the 12-team playoffs. I think it should go back to four, and the more they expand it, the more I hate it. The next thing you know, it'll be a 64-team playoff field, and it waters down the regular season. And now you'll be able to go 6-6 and go to the playoffs. But if there was ever a season to go back to a 14 playoff, it's this season because you have Ohio State, Indiana, Georgia, and Texas Tech, who I think are the four best teams. I think that's inarguable. And outside of those four teams, I think everybody else sucks. So I don't think there's a reason for even a fifth team to be in the playoffs, let alone all the way to 12. I think every other team sucks. And if anybody besides Ohio State, Indiana, Georgia, or Texas Tech wins the whole thing, I'll be absolutely surprised. But the top four teams, as I said, are Indiana, Ohio State, Georgia, and Texas Tech. By the way, if you jump on here live, feel free to leave a comment in the comment section down below. Make sure to give the video a like, a thumbs up. If you have not subscribed, please do so and share the video on all social media platforms. Hey there, Chicken Nugget. Glad to have you here on this Sunday afternoon. And by the way, last night I had a fantastic time out refereeing at the Anderson Mall for UCW's Christmas Clash. We had 6 matches all together. It was me and Nate as the referees last night. I had 3 matches. He had 3 matches. Fantastic show. Collecting toys for all the kids in the area who otherwise would not get a Christmas. It's good to see a cardboard box about as tall as I am that was almost totally full with toys. So appreciate everybody who came out last night and donated and helped the show. Chicken Nugget, thank you for subscribing. Thank you very much. But the playoffs are starting on Friday, December 19th, which, by the way, is mine and my wife's 14th wedding anniversary on December 19th. But that night we'll have one game, and then the next day, that Saturday the 20th, we'll have 3 games. We're going to have the 12 seed James Madison and the 5 seed Oregon, and that game will be played in Eugene, Oregon. You're going to have 9 seed Alabama and 8 seed Oklahoma, and that game will be in Norman, Oklahoma. You're going to have the 11 seed Tulane and the 6 seed Ole Miss from Oxford, Mississippi, and the 10 seed Miami and the 7 seed Texas A&M from College Station, Texas. And off the top of my head, I believe that Alabama Oklahoma is that Friday night game, and the other 3 games are that Saturday. I want to say, if memory serves, I want to say when I looked at it, hey there, Brenda, glad to have you here on this Sunday afternoon. I want to say that Tulane and Ole Miss is at noon on Saturday, and James Madison and Oregon is 3:30 that Saturday, and Miami and Texas A&M is 7:30 on that Saturday. But that's just memorization, so I could be wrong. And Brenda, I think it's the first time I've seen your name in the comments section. If it's your first time being here for whatever reason made you stop by the channel today, thank you very much. Feel free to give the video a like, a thumbs up, and if you have not subscribed to the channel, please do so, and share the video on all social media platforms. And of course, as we go throughout the college football bowl season, I usually try every week to run down a schedule of games that week because, when bowl season starts, there's some weeks you have 1 or 2 games, and there's some weeks you have 10 or 12. And then there's some days where it seems like there's bowl games on all day long. If I'm not mistaken, December 27th, I believe, is one day where there's like 10 bowl games on that day. And I want to say on the 29th, there's like 7 or 8 bowl games on that day. That seems to be the 2 days where there's pretty much multitude of bowl games on all day. Longer than some days you'll have one. So I usually try to every week, sometime during that week, run down a list of all the games in bowl season coming up that week. Now, I wanted to see if anybody had any thoughts on the final rankings because they didn't really surprise me. But I've always said the one thing that I think the committee should do, and they won't because it's boring and nobody will watch, but all they should do every week when the first playoff poll comes out Halloween week and all throughout the season, just release your rankings. Anytime you're asked a question about a team, just say, right now I think this team's better. Right now this is the best team. Right now these are our 12 best teams, because otherwise you back yourself into a corner and you back yourself into a hole, and every time you talk, it's completely different from what you said the previous week. So the best thing to do is just always come out and say, this team's better. This team's better. And that way you're not talking out of the both sides of your mouth, so to speak. But, Alabama goes out and plays Georgia, and, not only do they get beat, they get destroyed. This game was not close. Miami did not play at all yesterday, and they had more rushing yards than Alabama because Miami had 0 and Alabama had -3. So that's pitiful. That's awful. And the one thing about Alabama all year long is they cannot run the ball at all. And a guy I work with is a huge Bama fan, and he despises Kalen DeBoer because he says that in 2 years he has made Alabama the softest team in all of Power 4 football because they're softer than Charmin toilet paper. And I don't know what happened, but they are on both sides of the ball. But they can't run the ball at all, and they can't stop the run. And usually, if you can't run the ball and you can't stop the run, you're just not good. And Alabama's, not great, but they're decent. And that's shocking for a team that can't run the ball and a team that can't stop the run. But they go out and get demolished by Georgia and did not move at all. They stayed exactly where they were. And some people will say, well, you shouldn't get punished for losing your conference championship. Well, okay, but BYU lost their conference championship and they fell. So if your excuse for Alabama is, well, they lost their conference championship, then BYU shouldn't move. Otherwise, if BYU falls, Bama should fall. But they left Bama out last year. They're not going to leave Bama out 2 years in a row. That's just not going to happen. But I got to thinking this past week when I heard so much talk about Texas, and everybody talked about Texas, 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 and nobody wanted to talk about the games coming up over the weekend and what it might mean for the playoffs, who's in, who's out. All they wanted to talk about was Texas. And so many people try to convince you that Texas should be in the playoffs when they should not be. Texas has no business being in the playoffs. Thank God they're not going to be in the playoffs, but it got me to thinking, why is it in college football people think if you're a brand, you shouldn't earn anything? It should be given to you. They do it in college basketball to a certain extent. Like if Duke or North Carolina was to have a bad year and have to play in one of those, last four in games, the talk that Sunday when the whole entire bracket came out would be, oh my gosh, can you believe North Carolina is in the last four in game? And then by the time you wake up Monday morning, people have moved on past it and they're talking about the tournament. But in college football, if you leave one of the brand names out of the playoffs now, when it comes mid-February, people will still be talking about how Notre Dame didn't get in or how Texas didn't get in. For some reason, in college football, more than any other sport, people think if you're a brand name, nothing should be earned. It should be given to you just because you're Texas, just because you're Oregon, just because you're Ohio State, just because you're Georgia, just because you're Alabama. And I don't understand why people do that. And it's not just the fans of those teams, it's the sport of college football as a whole. People make like if you're a brand, then you're ranked top 10, automatically you're in the playoffs because you're a brand. And I don't understand it at all. Hey there, James. Glad to have you here. And hey there, Magical. Glad to have you here. And James and Magical. I think it's the first time I've seen y'all's names in the comment section. If it is y'all's first time being here for whatever reason made you stop by the channel today, thank you very much. Feel free to give the video a like, a thumbs up. If you have not subscribed to the channel, please do so and share the video on all social media platforms. But not only did BYU fall, a couple of years ago, I think it was 2023, when Georgia played Alabama for the championship in the SEC, and Bama won by a field goal, I think, if memory serves, and Georgia fell 3-4 spots. So you do see teams lose their conference championship game and maybe not fall out of the playoffs, but at least fall 2 or 3 spots. But Alabama didn't move at all. So that game yesterday really was useless because Georgia was ranked so high that if they lost, they weren't going to fall further than 6 or 7. And then Bama gets destroyed and they don't move at all. It was great to see you last night. Thank you, Patrick. I'm glad you came out, and it was a fantastic show. And I kicked off the video today by talking about how good the show was last night at the Anderson Mall. 6 matches all together. Barbarian was there. We also had Johnny Swinger there. We had current NWA stars Joseph Von Schmidt and Evan Golden. We also had current AEW star Elijah Drago. They were all there last night for UCW's Christmas Clash toy drive for the kids who otherwise would not get a Christmas. Now, this upcoming weekend, Patrick, I've got 3 shows. Friday night, I'll be in Ivor, South Carolina. Saturday night, I'll be in Easton Ollie, Georgia. And Sunday afternoon, I'll be in Royston, Georgia. So this weekend, show Friday, show Saturday, show Sunday. 3 different towns: Ivor, South Carolina, Friday; Easton Ollie, Georgia, Saturday; and Royston, Georgia, Sunday. And that might be it for 2025. I'm not sure yet. But the following weekend, the weekend of Friday the 19th, is my wedding anniversary. So that weekend, I am completely not taking the booking anywhere. And then, of course, the next weekend, nothing for sure yet, but it is Christmas weekend. So I'm not sure about that weekend either yet. But this weekend, 3 shows: Friday in Ivor, South Carolina, Saturday, East Denali, Georgia, and Sunday, Royston, Georgia. Any thoughts on any of this? Please feel free to let me know. Let's go ahead and get our dad joke of the day in here. I went to an outdoor restaurant this evening. It was a disaster, pouring with rain. It took me nearly 4 hours to finish my soup. And that does it for today's Ref Brandon and the Todd Family YouTube video. Until next time, it's Ref Brandon saying, just like in pro wrestling, life can be over by the count of 3. Tell your friends and family